It really started to happen when I was 23, when my brother was murdered. At his funeral, when I was leaning over his casket, God, Spirit, Universe, whatever you choose to call it, I choose to call it God, told me that the time was right, my brother was with him, and he was here for me. And it was the most warmth feeling from the inside out that I've ever felt. And it felt like I was in a standstill position for about 2 minutes. And I kept that as a secret because I didn't want to cheapen the words when I told somebody. And I knew at that point, everybody goes to heaven. Not that my brother was a bad person, but he didn't believe in God as the Christian folks or the non-Christian folks say. And that started my journey. And then my premonitions started kicking in. I remember having one so vivid where I could smell death, taste death, feel death, and see it. And then I saw my boss in a car accident. And when she came into work that morning, I told her, you can't go anywhere. And she was going to go to the bank. I said, no, you can't. Later that day, I found out the name of that corner where she was going to be killed was called Dead Man's Corner because there's so many accidents. I didn't have anyone to talk to because this wasn't something you talk about to people back then. And I just knew that there was a God, and I would sit in the morning and meditate and pray. And from there, things kept getting revealed to me more and more. When I turned 32, that's when it really started kicking in. I had to rely on my faith that I had experienced when I was 23 to get me through it. I knew at that time when I was working through some things, I call them growth spurts, that I knew that I was being supported, and I also knew I had to really do my work because I knew people were watching me, and I didn't know how that was or why, but I just an inner knowing. And when I became 38, my mother crossed over and my mediumship started happening. Not my mediumship per se, my healing abilities. And I found a mentor, or the mentor found me, and that's when I started healing and connecting with these three energies and healing with my hands and just knowing what was blocked in people, if they had kidney problems or whatever, and just intuitively knowing what was wrong with them. And I did my healing work until I was about 46, 47, and then that's when I realized all these voices that I was hearing, that I thought I had multiple personalities, were people from the other side I was communicating with. And then from there, that's when I started doing my mediumship work and teaching people and showing them what's being shown to me so that they can learn how to heal and know that there is something other than this life and that we are so much more than this body.
So what happened to your boss? Did she go, or she listened to you?
She listened to me.
Okay, good.
Yes, yes, she listened.
Okay, so when you said that you thought you had multiple personality disorder, did you go to someone trying to find an answer?
Well, of course I was in therapy for that one of my many growth spurts, and I would ask a therapist after they talked to me, for about 15, 20 minutes, I'd say, do you think I have multiple personalities? I knew I wasn't schizophrenic because I know what schizophrenia is. So I would ask, do I have multiple personalities? And the answer was always no. And then I would always ask again. And after about 3 times, I would just let it go and just say, okay, I don't have it, and I'd push it down. But when I think I was like 40 is when, no, 40, I think it was about 45, yeah. And that's when somebody came and told me, it's spirit you're hearing. And then I started making the connection. and just started working and reading books. Conversations with God was a big turning point for me back in the late 90s when they first started coming out. That was a big turning point for me. I just had experiences where I was woken up out of a dead sleep telling me I was a sun-moon dancer, and this Native American was just coming to me and telling me to get out of bed, and I just thought, like, this is crazy or whatever. And not long after that, my sister-in-law introduced me to the Native American group that she was affiliated with, and I went and did some sun-moon dances that a chief from a native tribe here in the United States had a vision to create, because it's a softer version of the sun dance that I think it's the Lakotas do. And in the sun moon dance, there's no piercing, and you don't have to be Native American to do it. And I did those dances, and that was the preparation. I did 4 of them, and you don't eat or drink for 3.5 days, and you dance to and from a tree, and it's a very spiritual thing. And I did 4 of those in 4 years, and that was preparation for me to be where I am now, because that taught me how we're all connected. We had a metaphysical store, and my mentor at the time told me, I think I was in my 40s, she told me, you need to put a sign out that you do healings and do it for donation. I did it, scared as I was, and that's what I did. And we had a back room in our metaphysical store, and I would do healings. And I started out where it'd take me like 2 hours to do a healing.
What was it that you were doing?
The energy work. And I channeled to these 3. They're highly evolved beings. They're affiliated with the Native Americans, which now that explained to me, I didn't know it then, why it explains to me why I was involved with that part of the Native American rituals, but they've always been with me. Their colors are purple and blue, which are my favorite colors. And I just connect to them. I don't know how to explain how, I just connect with them. And they just guide me, and they tell me to follow the energy. And then my hands just heat up, and it's like a vortex in my hands, and I just follow the energy. And they tell me what's going on with that person and stuff. And
so do you hear like voices in your head that tell you exactly, like words?
Sometimes I do hear their voices. Sometimes I do. But that's started probably about 15 years later, because these abilities are like a muscle. The more you exercise it, more developed, the more clearer things become. And so yes, sometimes I hear them talking. Sometimes it's pictures, and other times it's just a feeling. You can see it, or I just hear them. I call it a hear, feel type hearing, and they'll just tell me, put some energy into their lungs. Their lungs are bad, or their kidneys, or they have a lot of sadness from their mother or whatever, and they just, and I can tell when things are a real intense healing is taking place, because then I start getting real hot and start sweating, so I know that something big is going to come. I always set the energy, the space for them to always heal through me and not in me. One of the latest things that they're starting to show me is how to do soul retrievals. Some people just need to be brought back to earth, grounded. It just depends. I had someone the other day that it's like I call our body was like his body suit needed to be pulled back down on him, because he has such a hard time being here. But he's a very sensitive soul, and so it just could feel that his skin needed to be stretched, or his suit needed to be stretched down on his body, so he could feel like he belonged here.
When you are around people, for instance, some messages come to you, or you switch off these abilities when you are in a social gathering or situation like that?
It depends on where I'm going. If I'm going to the stores, I put like for me, I put it like a plexiglass dome over me because nothing penetrates through plexiglass. So I just envision a plexiglass dome, nothing can penetrate. So that's what I do when I go into the stores. When I'm going around people that I know, social gatherings, I don't do that much of a protection, but it is shut off, because I don't go in like, okay, let's see what's going to happen. But sometimes a message will come across and I will know something, but sometimes things just are for me to know and not to repeat. But then I know when I'm supposed to tell, because I get this anxiety in me, and I know that that's spirit talking. And when the minute I relay the message, that anxiety goes away. And sometimes it does happen in a store. I've had that happen to me, and I know I'm going to sound crazy. However, and it's amazing how the message I give to that person is exactly what they needed to hear at that time. And I just walk away going, okay, and I've learned though that when Spirit gives me a message to give to somebody, they're ready to hear it. It's not for me to decide if they're ready or not. If that message is to be given to them, then they're ready to hear it, however it is. It's not for me that they receive it like just, oh my God, I've been wanting this forever, but they're ready to receive it on whatever level it is that they're ready to hear it. And I don't have to be responsible for anything else.
Let's talk about your experience with Erik and channeling Erik and
Okay.
how that started.
Okay. I came, a friend of mine she still does, but would read channeling Erik on the internet before it was Facebook. And so she would read to me what was going on, and she'd say, you should follow it and see. So I started reading it from time to time, and then Facebook happened, and then that's how I got into the Facebook part. But, and then they had little groups and stuff, but I'd always read it because it was interesting, people's stories and people's pain about dealing with stuff. And I remember, and I didn't converse with Erik and stuff like a lot of other people were doing, but I came to a workshop here, and I remember the person always stood at the edge of the pool, and I stayed nervous the whole time. What I didn't realize, it's only 4 foot, so if she fell in, it wouldn't have made a big deal. But when I left, Erik was talking to me, and I just started listening to him, and the drive home was kind of long. So we just started talking just about regular stuff. And then I started taking him home with me on the way home from work, because it's an 1.5-hour commute. And so we would just start talking about just stuff that you just don't talk, because I figure he has all the answers. I just remember one day I asked him, so tell me, what's it like with somebody that has schizophrenia? What goes on in their body and in their mind? What is it, like really what's going on in there? And we were talking, and then from there, we just started talking more. One day he asked me, did I want to know what it was like for my brother when he crossed over? Because I would never ask. I didn't want to know. I knew he was okay, so I didn't ask. So Erik brought my brother in, and I asked my brother, what was it like? And it was around the time of my brother's birthday, and I still miss him. And Erik brought him in, and we talked. And when I got home, I sat outside, and a big flock of seagulls flew by. And my brother worked on the water. He was a captain, a merchant marine, and I knew that was my brother flying by. And then from there, Erik and I just started talking, and then I would have sessions before I started channeling for Elisa. And I always knew when it was a channeling Erik person, because Erik would come into the picture. And when it isn't, Erik wouldn't come into the picture. That was the beginning of the beginning. Erik likes the F-bomb, and he knows I don't, so he only makes me say it a little bit. But he does pull pranks.
How is it different from other spirits, if there is any difference?
With Erik, there is a difference. I can always tell with him. He just feels, for lack of better ways, he just feels more earthbound, and he's always right here on my left side, which I find odd because your left side is supposedly your feminine, your right side your masculine, but he's always on my left side, and it's like he's next to my shoulder and always right there. And his energy I just know it's him. His energy just feels real different. His energy feels real different from my brother, from my mother. His energy feels different from anybody else that comes through. It's Erik. I guess it's like personalities, you know. You just know. You just know. Sometimes Erik will just say, hey, I'm here. Or sometimes I'll say, Erik, are you going to show up? Come on. And he says, I'm here. And he's taking his time walking into a room or something. But his energy I don't know how to, he just feels so here. I don't know how to, he's just here. Everybody else is over here, but he's right here.
Like when I watch the different mediums that channel Erik,
it's all about the filter. It's all about where the person is, where they are in their life. I think it's also we relate it to our experiences. I think we add I can't say we, I have to say for me, I relate it to what it feels, you know, to an experience or a feel, so I kind of bring that in with that, you know, what it resembles to me, you know. Of course I try to give what it is they're saying, but you always kind of tie it back to your stuff, like where you are, and it's all about our filter. And that's why doing this work, sometimes when people say, God, I wish I could do what you do, we all can do this. We all have these abilities. That's 100% given. But when I hear that, I think, oh, if you only knew what was involved, because you have to work on yourself, heal yourself all the time. Of course, you have breaks, and how I eat is so different. What I drink is so different. What I do today is not what I was doing 5 years ago or 10 years ago. You know, it's just real different. And I think for me, the cleaner I get my system, the clearer I hear messages. I just recently became, if you want to label it, vegetarian. But I don't think it's related to meat. I just can't stand the texture of it, and it grows. I've never been a big meat eater, but for me it's all the processed foods. And before I started eating cleaner, if I knew I had a session, say tomorrow, I wouldn't eat any sugar today, because I wouldn't be able to channel very well, because I'd be off kilter.
what do you think about being a skeptic, or doubting things, questioning things?
I personally think that's very healthy. I think it's real healthy. I'm a skeptic. I really am, and I think it's very healthy to have that. And I don't mind somebody being a skeptic with me. I really don't. I had someone say, towards the end of the session, she says, right before I left my husband's room, what did I do? Can he tell me what did I do? And I just was like, I said, I don't know, but he's showing me his foot, something to do with the toe. And that's what she did. She wiggled his toe. And that right there made her a believer. I think you have to be skeptic. I had a client that had been scammed out of millions because so-called mediums said stuff. So I think it's real good to be skeptic.
When Elisa asked you to become a part of the channeling Erik family, that's when you had to come out as
Yes.
a medium or a psychic. So how did that make you feel? Were you comfortable? There's still a huge stigma.
I remember getting the text message. I was at a furniture store and I was like, oh my God. So I thought about it. I didn't want to do it in the beginning because of fear, and I'm just determined fear is not going to be, it's not going to be my factor on why I don't do things anymore. So I said yes, and it was scary, very scary, because my immediate family, they kind of knew what I did, but they didn't know. And then I have other family and my work, but I just went ahead and did it, and it was scary at first. But then it's like, this isn't for me. This is for me to share with everybody. And so I still get nervous. It's like, okay, and but then after I start, within 5 minutes of the session, all that goes away, because it's not me. I'm just listening and delivering, so it's not me. Now I don't care who knows. And I'm not here to prove you anything different. Yeah, it can be real scary because you get called all kinds of names, but I don't care.